Greetings and welcome to another exciting episode of Disney Animated and Remake. I am your lovely host, Miss Disney, and last time you saw me about this episode, we talked about The Little Mermaid, the live action and animated, and how much I loved it. Well, and I know it's been a year since you last saw me about episodes regarding Disney animated and the Disney live action movies. Well, in this episode, we are going to be talking about, in case you haven't noticed, and in case you still don't get the hint for some odd reason, let me give you a little hint on some. Actually, let me say it this way. Let's reflect on this. That's right. We are talking about the new Snow White movie, which a lot of people have been talking about. A lot of negative, but also a lot of good too. And no, we're not talking about Mirror Mirror, which is awesome, or the Snow White and the Huntsman. It was okay, as well as the sequel. No, we are talking about the 1937 Snow White and the new Snow White movie. Yeah, I know it's not the DVD, but the movie just came out a month ago, so I was able to read the novelization. Okay, so oh, excuse me. So first things first. I don't know about you guys, but I loved it. It was really entertaining. Like, it really did show Snow White. Like, it showed more of Snow White. And you have to remember, in 1937, Snow White was 14 years old, whereas I just found out through the book that this Snow White is indeed 18 years old. So they actually did up her age, but the one thing they did is that they kept the same characteristics as Snow White. Rachel Zegler, in my opinion, did a pretty fantastic job. Now, my brother and I, we have a little debacle about this. He doesn't want to see Snow White for his own personal reasons, and I completely respect that. And it's like I tell everybody who is very skeptical of these live action movies. See it for yourself. If you are really that curious, see it for yourself and see whether or not you actually did enjoy it or you don't. It's honestly that. But in my personal opinion, I think it actually did the movie pretty justice and then some. For instance, growing up, I always wondered what happened to Snow White's parents. And it did somewhat explain it, like, it did point at the fact that Snow White's mom, the Good Queen, she did pass away. That doesn't surprise me because a lot of the fairy tale movies fairy tale stories tend to go in that direction. Although, honestly, I thought the Evil Queen had something to do with it. But as it turns out, my suspicion of what the Evil Queen did to her father, that I figure what happened, because it never explained in 1937 how her parents died or even who her parents were. But it just led the idea that Snow White is all alone with her stepmom, who is cruel to her. And you know what? You know what? Both movies actually had something different. You know what happened? We actually had an interaction, like seeing the relationship between the Evil Queen and Snow White, and that was actually pretty cool because we got to see how Evil Queen actually treated her, and we also got to see how the Good King ended up marrying the Evil Queen. And I still played the fact that it didn't show it, but I think it hinted out that she used some sort of potion or something or a spell to make him fall in love with her. I mean, how else would you explain the sudden marriage and everything? I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Quinn? Nothing? Okay. But yeah, we got to see Snow White being interactive in the movie. We got to see her, like, just basically talking to the queen and some sort of interaction between them and everything. Like, I think Rachel Zegler portrayed Snow White pretty justly. I think so. Like, she's got the character, she's got the voice, she's got everything to do with Snow White. Yes, there's been some debacle about her opinion of Snow White, and everybody does. Even I do, and I love Disney. I love Disney with all my heart. In case you haven't noticed, I mean my little decorations. I even have the books of Snow White, even going as far as getting them in Japanese. So I honestly have no negativity towards the original Snow White at all, especially since it is a little bit more different than the original Grimm fairy tales, and that's kind of what I want to lead more towards, is that a lot of people are saying that Snow White, in the original story, Snow White was, as her skin was white as snow, whereas in the 2025, they changed it up and saying she's as pure as snow. I don't see the problem. I honestly do not, because for one thing, and this is me and my friend who is normally my co-host, and I wish he was here. Vicky, if you're watching this, please come back to our state so you can be my co-host for these. I know you love it. I know you want to. But Quinn, I love you and all, but you're a terrible co-host. See, I'm not getting any emotions from you. Yeah, nothing at all. Come back, Vicky! Anyway. I lost my train of thought already. But honestly, I don't see the difference. I mean, the concept of snow is in fact kind of pure, because for one thing, most of the time we see snow as white. It's rarely a different shade of color unless you do something to it. And it's pretty small and crystallized, and it can either be hard or it can be soft. So it's actually a good mixture, and it's pure. What it is? What, you don't believe me? You don't believe me? Go see for yourself. So honestly, I like portraying how it is, and this Snow White is actually depicting more. Actually, it's coming back from more of both the physical features, because let's face it, Snow White really is beautiful, as well as the Evil Queen. The actresses who played them really are pretty, beautiful, and even the animation characters of Snow White and Evil Queen are beautiful too. While the animated one focused more on the outward appearance, the 2025 focused a little bit of both of them, actually, physical and the attributes of being fairest of them all, which I think is a greater message, because in the original 1937 Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, yes, we do see Snow White as kind, caring, compassionate, loving, all things fair, which makes her the fairest of them all on the outside. But it never really showed it too much, not while the 2025 one actually did show her more of being the caring, fairest, kindness of them all. So in some ways, both movies actually did contribute the attribute pretty nicely. The original one just only focused like on the outer layer rather than the inner layer. So again, no complaints there. That I actually don't. I mean, it is what it is. I think it did a beautiful message there, and the one thing that I actually did like about this Evil Queen, other than the fact that we got more time out of her, is that we got to see who she truly was, other than just being the Evil Queen and being so vain and everything. We actually see her tunnel vision, her point of view on how to run a kingdom. To her, she pointed out several times in the movie that people don't want a flower, which is beautiful, fragile, completely irresistible, but it can be easily broken. Whereas a diamond, hard, beautiful, pretty perfect and everything. So in the Evil Queen's mind, when you're a diamond, you're able to be very powerful, because nothing can break a diamond. I mean, scientifically speaking, there is nothing on this earth at all that could actually break a diamond. And I speak as an educator to where I actually learned this and taught it. And I mean, if I'm wrong, please tell me in the comments. I would love to hear if I'm wrong or if something has changed since last time I taught science. But I love what they did with the Evil Queen, of where they gave her a little bit more a characteristic of the Evil Queen, other than just being pure evil. We see her on a mindset of wanting to be the most powerful. And that's just not like having all these magical powers or magical contribution to the unknown, but like her mindset was just so focused on perfection. Like she thinks that's how you run a kingdom of perfection, control, hard, cold, basically no cracks. Like nothing can break you. And when she sees Snow White, she sees this as beautiful but delicate, like a flower. And she thinks, can a kingdom be ruled by a flower? She doesn't think so. So I could see, but she still views Snow White as beautiful, so that's why in the beginning she did all that she could to make Snow White less beautiful. And she also kept her in the castle to the point where majority of the villagers completely forgot who she was, and it kind of led to the idea of bringing her spirits down and bringing the fairest of her down, like crushing a flower to where it just turns to dust, like the Evil Queen demonstrated. That honestly is like a good little detail that it pays so much difference from the 1937, because again, 1937 mostly clarified that the Evil Queen only focused on the looks. I mean, crying out loud, she changed her appearance to be ugly, and then it just kind of like, I don't know, just I think they did a magnificent job on that, and I love how they changed up the prince idea. I mean, when you have to understand, we only saw like 5 minutes of the prince in 1937, and it kind of gave the idea that sorry guys, my watch is going off. It kind of gave the idea, at first when I first heard that the prince was not a prince, I was a little bit skeptical. I'm like, oh, they're making him a commoner. What if he's a prince in disguise? But no, I kind of like the idea of the reality, because let's face it, you have a naive girl who only wants to be fair and true and wants to be everything that her parents taught her to be. So naturally, I see you, Wonder. So naturally you think, oh, here comes the prince. He's going to swoop in and save the day. Nah, I like the little interaction between Jonathan and Snow White. It was like pretty whimsical and playful. It kind of reminds me of Prince Charming and Snow White in Once Upon a Time. Jennifer, wow. Jennifer Goodwin and Josh Dallas did a fantastic job on those two. They are my all-time favorite live-action TV Snow White and Prince Charming. Honestly, I like Jonathan a little bit more better than an actual Prince Charming from the Snow White, because, again, we actually get to see like a nice interaction between the two, not just love at first sight. Like when we first were introduced to Jonathan, he was stealing. And Snow White was like, I don't think you're supposed to be taking that. That's the queen's. And he's like, so? I mean, it's a nice little interaction there. And just from that point on, every interaction they have, they're like, what? Why do you keep showing up in my life? And then they helped each other out. And if you think about it, they actually make each other better, because you got Snow White, who was born in a castle and practically was imprisoned in the castle for at least, I'm assuming, 8 or 10 years of her life after her father's passing, to and but still remaining hopeful to Jonathan, who was raised in a wilderness and was actually experiencing what the evil queen put them through. And yes, it made him seem like nothing's gonna change because one, nobody saw Snow White. The king was off and gone, so his hopes kind of just drifted off. So it's a nice little combination right there, and quite honestly, I enjoyed it very much, and I love how the relationship kind of built from there, whereas it was just like it was like a real relationship. Like it wasn't just love at first sight. It was gradually growing from enemies to, well, not even enemies, to like strangers, to interaction. Sorry, Wonder is just acting a little strange. To like a potential romance blossoming, and it grew. Like it was like friendship on fire, and that was like so beautiful. I enjoyed it very much, and definitely a lot better, especially since a lot of people were portraying the fact of a kiss from a stranger. That I get, especially from this day and age. I definitely wouldn't want to be kissed by a stranger, although technically, nope. Nah, 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 nah. I'm kidding, guys. No, 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 no. I got to know Mr. Disney before we even started any romances and everything. So, yeah, I could see the world portraying that in a negative way. I mean, as much as it's beautiful and everything, and it definitely doesn't portray from like the original Snow White. Because if you read the Grimm fairy tale of it, there was no kissing involved. No kiss whatsoever to wake the princess. In fact, do you know what actually really did happen to Snow White in the Grimm fairy tales? She ate an apple, yes, but the apple wasn't poisonous, per se. Let's just say she ate it and it got stuck in her throat. That's it. She literally died from choking. And there was, and of course, there was no CPR, so naturally that was the end of it. And the Snow Whites thought she was dead. They thought the evil queen finally killed her, which it's some indirectly she did. Indirectly, actually, I shouldn't say indirectly. Directly, she did. She gave the apple to Snow White, and she watched her die. So naturally, the dwarves put her in a glass coffin, kept her there for a number of days or weeks or months. A prince showed up, saw how beautiful was, and bought her. Oh, you're gonna leave me? Some co-host you are. But yeah, in the original fairy tale, there was no kissing involved. The prince saw how beautiful she was, bought Snow White off of the dwarves, even though they were reluctant to actually sell her. But they figured he was a prince and he could take care of her and everything. So then they were journeying to his castle when they come across a log or a rock or some sort of obstacle in the road, and it kind of collided, and Snow White fell out of her coffin, and lo and behold, the apple came out of her mouth. And who did she marry? The prince. The prince who rescued her. I mean, in a sense, he kind of did, because he did buy her and did send her home. And if it weren't for that obstacle in the road, she would have probably did die from suffocation from the apple in her throat. But yeah, there was no true love's first kiss or everything. So that's what I love about Disney, is that they created something kind of dark and plain and to something really beautiful and everything. And it was just, and I love how in the 2025, this kiss between Jonathan and Snow White was in fact consensual, because their feelings were starting to grow, and they started realizing how important they were in each other's lives, because they helped build each other up and everything. So that was actually a nice little touch and a nice little twist in the so-called kiss. Like, a lot of people were hoping that there was no kiss to save her or anything. Like, there was going to be some sort of magical remedy to wake her up. Well, guess what? The kiss was magical because they did finally experience real, true love just from getting to know each other rather than just knowing each other for 2 minutes, start realizing you have feelings for each other, and then just happened upon the woods. Like, seriously, where did the prince come from in 1937? He was just on a horse. He saw Snow White, came down, kissed her. I mean, beautiful as it is, but they only knew each other for 5 minutes. I mean, what? That's pretty quick, don't you think? But it's just my thing. But again, nothing negative towards the original. That's just how I kind of view it. And quite honestly, I'm not the only one. Even true Disney fans would notice that and be like, okay. But it's still not dissing it when you absolutely love something. It's just facing what we can see. And honestly, it didn't change that. I mean, even the magical qualities. And what I love another thing that I love about is the colorful differences between in the atmosphere. Like when we were first introduced to 2025, the area was beautiful. Like really in the beginning when the king and queen and Snow White were ruling the kingdom, everything was beautiful, bright, shiny, voluptuous, voluptuous. Wow. Everything was just pure and good and growing, hence the song Where the Good Things Grow. Whereas when the queen died and the evil queen showed up, things started slowly falling until the king disappeared, and then everything went dark, bleak, and bleh. Even Snow White's colors were starting to look bleak. But then, after running away from the forest and falling in the woods and interacting with the animals in the woods, things started looking brighter. And it actually showed the forest in a brand new light. Like, I don't know about you, but when I saw the movie, I didn't see any shrouds of darkness whatsoever until the evil queen showed up in her hag disguise. But other than that, everything was bright, cheerful, it seemed magical. So, even when the guards were chasing Snow White, it still didn't show any shrouds of darkness. Like everything seemed so bright and cheerful. Even the whimsical little princess problems between Jonathan and Snow. That song, I love it so much. 'Cause your princess problems don't apply to me. Charming speech, but are you done? All for one and none for all? Or something like that. I haven't memorized it entirely, and quite frankly, I am recovering from a cold, so yeah, I can't really breathe too much. So sorry if I sound a little funny. I should have warned you guys that. But yeah, honestly, the atmosphere itself really did portray it differently, especially towards the end where Snow White did confront the evil queen. And yes, it was still bleak, but it was definitely a lot more lighter than in the beginning, where it was completely bleak and dark and ugh. Whereas when she encountered the evil queen, things were starting to light up slightly, but just not enough, but just slightly. But then when the evil queen was gone, everything started brightening up again and became just like the beginning. So that was a nice little atmospheric interpretation on how the world it seems, where you have something good, something evil. The forest was truly magical. And speaking of magical, a lot of people were talking. We forgot about the most important magical pieces in the forest, the dwarves. A lot of people were actually complaining about the dwarves. Like little people were not portraying the dwarves at all in this movie. I after watching the movie the first time and then reading some more about it, and then actually rewatching the movie. Unfortunately, I did not have the luxury to rewatch it as many times as I would like to. But finally, after analyzing it and realized, I could see what the writers were trying to do. They were trying to portray the difference between dwarves and human dwarves. Like the seven dwarves that we knew and love wholeheartedly are in fact magical, and they actually did show a little bit more attributes towards the magical part. Like in the song Hi Ho, you see that they use light and it shines on their palms, and once they touch rock, it helps guide them to the mines and to find the diamonds and stuff so they can mine and provide the diamonds to mine. I should have reworded that better, shouldn't I? Oh well. But that was nice. That was actually nice. And I love how they actually showed the difference between magical dwarves and human dwarves, because magical dwarves, the writers wanted to make sure that there was not only a inner difference but also an outer difference. These dwarves were actually based off the mythicals from not only the Grimm fairy tales but as well as other mythological contributes of dwarf interpretations, like to make them seem that they are magical, because in the original Grimm fairy tales, we just know that they're dwarves. There was like no immediate description of them. Like, for instance, we don't know if they were actually human or if they were actually dwarves and everything. We just know that they were miners who mine and they provide gems for the people and everything. So there was like, and a lot, and you have to understand, Grimm brothers, when they were writing the story, this was stories told by other people. So who's to say that the original Snow White actually came from Germany? Do you know? Because you have to understand, someone like me who loves Disney so much, growing up, I started wondering about the background of it, and it kind of led me to, as I grew older, I started researching. Like, I actually figured out where Walt Disney got majority of his inspirations from, and that's from the Grimm fairy tales as well as other literatures. And I found out something about the Grimm fairy tales. These are stories that were told to him from other people. So they weren't like their original stories. They were stories told from various people. And and this is me and my co-star been talking about for a while, of where did these original stories came from? Because the villagers are a pretty small group of people that live in one small town. So where did you think these stories inspire them from? Yes, fairy tales do actually have some lessons in there and some themes that, yes, can play a big role in how you view life and what lessons you learn from it. But you also got to remember, where did the inspiration of these lessons came from? Like, I've actually heard that there was in fact I want to say a duchess or a baroness who had a stepmother who tried to poison her, like from Bavaria. This was like maybe the 17th century or so on and so forth, maybe earlier. But she did in fact try to poison her own stepdaughter just to gain the title that the stepdaughter was blessed with when her birth father passed away. And the stepmother didn't like that. She wanted control of everything. So, and everything. And there was also another one of a Snow White in Italy that had the same storyline, but it was slightly different. So you have to ask yourself, is Snow White really German, or is it somewhere else entirely? And the story just kind of started, like the actual writing of the story was in Germany, and a lot of people just assumed that that's where the original Snow White came from. Who's to say of who Snow White really is, or where she's actually from? More importantly, where were the dwarfs, in fact? Like, I've heard, I mean, they definitely portrayed the dwarfs as magical, even though they didn't have any magical attributes, but they are definitely not human. And that's what I love that this Snow White tried to do. They try to make sure that these sets of dwarves were in fact different than not only the 1937, but also from the stories that we all grew up with, so that way we can see how different they are and what makes them so special. And honestly, these seven dwarves, as well as the seven bandits that Snow White uh, got was introduced to, it's like a nice little thing, because then you get to see the dwarves interact with the bandits, and you see the same characteristics from other people, and it just makes it clear that no matter how different you are, you're the same, like on the inside as well as the out, even though you just look different, because we're all different. There's no such thing as the sames. Even when you're identical twins, are you really identical to your twin? Maybe physically, but not always. But that's more of the scientific layout. But honestly, in my personal opinion, I enjoyed Snow White. Like the one thing that I didn't like was, I love the song All Is Fair, because finally the Evil Queen does have a song that really sets out how she views the world and everything, but I don't know, it feels like it was lacking in something. But I mean, I enjoyed it. I don't hate it. I didn't love it. It was just good. But I definitely love the interactions of everything in the movie. Like, I saw how Snow White made a huge impact on the dwarves and everything. Yes, there were some minor little details that switched around or changed a little, but if you look back at all the live action of the movies, do you think they are exactly the same as the animated? Not really. I mean, yes, a lot of them are definitely reenactments of the original animated, but in all, live actions tend to make more details than we originally grew up with, and that's just how it is. And quite honestly, I enjoyed it so much, and I can't wait for the DVD to come out. My brother's just gonna have to watch it for himself when it comes on Disney Plus to really see if he truly likes it or not. He's just basing it on what he heard about the actress who plays Snow White. Everybody has their own opinions, and I speak from experience that you can't truly 100% believe everything that was written down until you actually witness it yourself. And again, I speak from personal experience. I'm not going to go into full details, but let's just say Mr. Disney had a little trouble legally in the past, and media caught whiff of that, and they said some pretty awful things about him, which are not true. Let me make that perfectly clear. Not true. But again, I'm not going to go into full details on that, because that's not what this episode is about. But all in all, I love the message that both, honestly, the 2025 Snow White is nowhere any different than the original, other than the fact that it did focus more on Snow White. And honestly, that it's very much like the first one. I mean, whereas the first one was only like maybe a little bit over an hour long, this Snow White was a lot more, like I think roughly 2 hours long. But I love it. I love it so much. I love it to death, and I highly recommend it, especially to the younger kids. And I really wish Disney would actually see that it's still got its mixed reviews, and it's okay. It's okay to be a little different. I mean, Snow White is still Snow White. They just added more details to her that the animation couldn't do, because let's face it, it was 1937. They were on a budget. And this was Walt Disney's very first animated movie, so things were a lot different back then. So the fact that we actually grew to this live action of Snow White and actually got to really get to know the character Snow White even more, as well as the people we interact with. Like, even the special relationship between her and Dopey, can see why, because they have so much in common. We actually got to see more of Dopey on, for one thing, he talks! Sorry. Dopey talks! Yeah, it's only like maybe the last 10 minutes of the movie, and it's only like, and come to find out he was the narrator of the movie. I did not see that coming, and honestly, that was actually pretty nice. As much as I love Dopey being like the not talkative type and everything, it actually got to explain more on why he couldn't talk. He didn't know how to. I mean, it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard to find the right words when you want to speak and everything. So I love how they portrayed Dopey, and I love how Snow White interacted with Dopey to really feel the connection between the two. And if you think about it, she actually did help him. She helped him speak, like find ways to speak. Even the whistling, that was genius. Like, whistle while you work. If you can't find the words, whistling is your heart's way of speaking. That's a great little startup there. That was beautiful. Like, it was just amazing and everything. So I love that little interaction. And towards the end, Snow White, or Dopey, pumped up Snow White after she woke up, saying, "Let her try. We're not afraid." In some ways, he helped inspire her to really step up and become the leader she was born to be. So again, recap, my personal opinion, Disney 1937 Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and the 2025 Snow White, they're no different from each other. I enjoyed both of them very much. I was, I loved it. Even the songs, Waiting on a Wish was my absolute favorite of it, and everything. Whistle While You Work was another favorite. Obviously, Princess Problems and A Hand Meets a Hand. Oh, what a beautiful love song right there. That was so beautiful. But yeah, my opinion, I think it's just the best, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. If you have your opinions on it, feel free to leave a comment about it. If this is your first time watching my series, feel free to subscribe to me, click on my playlist, Disney Animated and Remake, and just watch the rest of my episodes that tells us more about the other remakes that happened before then. And that's all I'm going to say about it for right now. Join me next time as we talk about the upcoming live action Lilo and Stitch. Yeah, I know, that was terrible. I know. I gotta work. And just remember, Ohana means family. And family means nobody gets left behind or forgotten. I know, I'm a little ahead of myself, but I wanted to put it in there. But just remember, always be fearless, fair, brave, and true. Until next time, guys, be the fairest of them all, and have a magical day.